His name was Marcus Tate, and he didn't own a clock. Didn't need one. His body was like a machine, wired to wake up at 5 a.m. sharp. No alarm required. He'd roll off the thin mattress he kept on the floor of his buddy's one-bedroom apartment in Tulsa. It wasn't his place, not really, but for the last few months, it was the only roof he could count on. The air was chilly, the silence thick, but Marcus moved with intention. He flicked on the stove, set a dented kettle over the flame. No coffee in the house, but that wasn't the point. He needed steam enough to iron the one dress shirt he owned. It was light gray, a little worn at the collar, missing a button on the sleeve, but if you pressed it just right, it could pass for professional. Marcus didn't complain. Never did. Complaining didn't pay the rent, didn't land you interviews, and it definitely didn't fill in the 2-year gap on his resume that started when his dad passed and ended with an eviction notice taped to his door. He ironed that shirt like it was a ritual, the warm, damp air filling the tiny kitchen. Then he turned to his shoes, black, scuffed, splitting at the seams but still holding together. He grabbed a rag, dipped it in some vegetable oil, and polished them until they had a faint shine. Interview at 10. Don't be late, he muttered to himself, staring into a chipped mirror. By 7:30 he was out the door, a half-eaten protein bar in his pocket. Bus fare in loose change he'd borrowed from Miss Clara downstairs. She was a retired nurse who spent her days knitting and watching game shows at top volume. Marcus promised he'd pay her back the second he got hired. He walked to the bus stop, head high, shoulders back. He'd read somewhere, maybe on a career blog, that how you carry yourself matters more than what's on paper. So he walked like he had a plan. Not like someone who hadn't seen a steady paycheck in over a year. It was a crisp Tulsa morning. The sky still soft with dawn, the streets quiet. Marcus skipped the second bus to save a few coins and to clear his mind. Each step was like practicing his lines. What are your strengths? I'm reliable. I show up. I get it done. What's your weakness? I don't always ask for help when I should. Why do you want this job? Because I want to build something I can stand behind. Just before 9:30, the building came into view. Sleek glass, clean lines, the Tulsa office of Carver and Stone. It wasn't some big city hype, but to Marcus, it felt like another world. He straightened up, ready to walk in, but then something caught his eye. A woman, polished, put together, juggling a fancy tote bag, and a coffee cup was stuck. Like, literally stuck. One of her high heels was wedged in a crack in the sidewalk, near the corner of Pine and 12th. She tugged at her foot, but the heel was in deep, and the angle was all wrong. Cars slowed, some honked, and she looked frustrated, maybe a little embarrassed. Marcus didn't overthink it. His phone buzzed in his pocket, but he ignored it. He stepped forward. Need a hand? He asked, crouching down without waiting for an answer. Up close, she looked like she belonged in a boardroom. Neat bob haircut, flawless makeup, a silk blouse under a tailored coat. Late 30s maybe, but with that kind of confidence that makes people pay attention. I don't know how this happened, she said, trying to laugh it off, but her voice had that tight edge of someone pretending they're not stressed. No big deal, Marcus said, kneeling and gripping the heel. You're caught in the crack. It's in there, good. She steadied herself against the street sign while he worked. Watch the cars, she mumbled, more to herself. People drive like it's a racetrack around here. Marcus grinned as he wiggled the heel. Yeah, they don't slow down unless there's a cop nearby. The shoe was stuck tight, the sole starting to tear. She sighed. I just got these third pair this year. Marcus chuckled. These are my only pair. Been with me since high school. There was a beat, and she softened, looking at him. You in a hurry? He paused. Part of him wanted to say yeah, he had an interview. He might be late. This was his one shot. But instead, he said, kinda, but I'm not leaving you out here. Stuck. With one more twist, the heel popped free. She stumbled a bit, and he steadied her arm. There you go, he said. Thank you, she exhaled, fixing her shoe. I thought I was gonna have to ditch these and go barefoot. That'd be a look. She smiled, a real one this time. What's your name? Marcus Tate, he said, standing and brushing off his knees. Well, Marcus Tate, I owe you one. She checked her watch, winced. I'm late, gotta run. And just like that, she was off, weaving through the morning crowd with a stride that said she wasn't stopping for anyone. Marcus glanced at his watch, 9:54. His stomach dropped. The interview was at 10, and the building was still across the street. He bolted, dodging a bike courier, his resume folder nearly slipping from his hand. He burst through the glass doors, trying to mask his panic with a shaky smile. "Hi," he panted at the receptionist. "I'm here for a 10 o'clock interview with Carver and Stone. Name's Marcus Tate." The receptionist gave him a calm look, then clicked through her computer. Her smile was polite but flat. "I'm sorry, Mr. Tate. Ms. Harper only had a slot until 10. She's already left." Marcus froze. "Wait, can you check? I was just helped someone outside. It took a couple minutes. She stepped out 5 minutes ago. I'm sorry." Her tone was final. He stood there, gripping his folder like it could anchor him. His breath was shallow, but he swallowed hard, forcing a nod. "Thanks," he said, and walked out, careful not to let the door slam. The world outside felt sharper, now louder buses, brighter sun. He sank onto a bench, the same one he'd passed earlier, and let the folder rest on his knees. For a moment, he let himself think it. Maybe I screwed up. Maybe I should have kept walking. But then he pictured that woman, her embarrassed glance, the way no one else even paused. His hands were clammy, his stomach empty. But he told himself, doing the right thing doesn't always pay off. But it's still right. Marcus sat there a while, watching people flow in and out of the building like it was just another day. A day where meetings happened, deals closed, coffee cooled on desks, while someone droned about synergy. He imagined the office he didn't see, the chair he didn't sit in, the pitch he didn't give. The folder felt heavier now, like it knew it was pointless. He didn't move until the shadows shifted and the bench warmed under him. Then he stood, adjusted his shirt, and walked 3 blocks to a corner store where Miss Clara's nephew worked. The register. With his last $2, he bought a bottle of water and a stale gas station sandwich that tasted like regret. Back at the apartment, Miss Clara was dozing in her armchair, TV blaring a cooking show. Marcus didn't wake her. He leaned against the kitchen counter, staring at nothing. That night, when his friend Jamal got home from his shift at a warehouse, Marcus didn't say much, just gave a thumbs up and mumbled, "Interview went okay." He didn't want pity or Jamal's usual pep talk about better things coming. He just wanted quiet. But quiet wasn't peace, not when his mind kept replaying that moment. Why didn't I say I was in a rush? What if she could have figured it out herself? Sleep didn't come easy. He lay on the... Marcus didn't sleep that night. Not out of worry, though his mind was buzzing, electric. He kept replaying that moment at the corner of Pine and 12th, the woman's quick smile. The way she vanished into the crowd without a name. She remembered me, he thought. He hadn't even looked, that sharp shirt creased from running, tie slightly crooked, but somehow his small act of kindness had stuck with her. By 6 a.m. he was up, steaming his grey dress shirt again with a kettle trick, polishing his worn shoes with a rag and a dab of oil. He even patched the sleeve button with a needle and thread borrowed from Miss Clara's sewing kit. Nothing fancy, but it held. His friend Jamal, who worked nights at the warehouse, offered to drive him. "No bus today," Jamal said, tossing his keys in the air. "You're walking in there on time, looking fresh. I got gas and half a protein bar for luck." Marcus laughed, but he was quiet the whole 10-minute ride, nerves humming. At 8 a.m., he stepped into the Carver and Stone lobby, heart pounding. The receptionist gave him a different vibe this time, not icy, just curious. "6th floor," she said. "Miss Carver's office is at the end of the hall. No waiting room, no assistant escorts, just straight to the top." The elevator ride was silent, quick. Marcus checked his breath, wiped his sweaty palms on his slacks, and knocked once. "Come in," came a warm, steady voice. He stepped inside, and there she was, behind a sleek glass desk, papers neatly stacked, phone tucked to the side, charcoal blouse, simple gold earrings, same sharp bob haircut, same calm confidence. "I was hoping it was you," she said, smiling. "Didn't know your name until yesterday, but I've been thinking about you." Marcus fumbled for words. "You're Miss Carver, Sylvia." She stood, offering her hand. "Call me Sylvia." Her grip was firm, her gaze direct. "I had no idea," Marcus said, shaking her hand. "You didn't say anything." "I was late for a meeting," she replied, sitting back down. "But after I got my heel unstuck and made it upstairs, I checked the security footage, saw you at the front desk, out of breath, looking like you'd just run a marathon. That kind of thing stays with you." He gave a nervous laugh. "Not the first impression I was going for." "You made the right one," she said, leaning forward. I've interviewed dozens for our analyst program. Most are forgettable. They say the right things, wear the right clothes, but they don't do anything real. She gestured to a chair. Sit. Tell me about you. No resume stuff. Who are you? Marcus took a breath and started. He told her about growing up in Broken Arrow, about losing his dad and dropping out of community college to handle bills and a funeral. He talked about job applications that went nowhere, couch surfing, showing up at the workforce center every day like it was his job. I'm not here for sympathy, he said. I just want to work. I want to build something that matters. Sylvia listened. No interruptions, no glancing at the clock. When he finished, she leaned back. We had ever worked with data. A bit, he said. Taught myself Excel from YouTube videos. Tracked budgets, bills, even mocked up a little app for a delivery service. Tried pitching it once, but it didn't go far. Show me, she said. He blinked. What? Pull it up. She slid a laptop across the desk. You've got 10 minutes. His hands were shaky, but he remembered the links, dug up screenshots he'd saved in his email. He walked her through the tabs, the formulas, the clunky but functional app design. She watched, silent, focused. When he finished, the room was quiet. He built that with no formal training, just YouTube and trial and error. Sylvia asked. Yeah, he said, bracing for a critique. She smiled. I like people who figure things out. She stood. That'll be all for today. Marcus stood, unsure. No offer, no rejection, just a blank end. Thank you, he said, and walked out, his mind spinning. Was that it? It didn't feel like an interview. It felt like a test, like she was looking for something beyond his words. Outside, the air hit different, not better or worse, just unfinished. Jamal picked him up 20 minutes later. So, how'd it go? He asked, tapping the wheel. Marcus stared out the window. I don't know, man. Good, maybe, but also weird. Like she was testing me, not interviewing me. They didn't talk much after that. That night, Marcus sat at the kitchen table, still in his slacks, staring at a blank notebook. He wanted to jot down everything Sylvia said, every look, every pause, but it slipped through his fingers like sand. He barely slept, not from fear this time, but from a nagging curiosity. Why reschedule it herself? Why not just send a rejection email? Why ask me to show my work, then end it like that? The next morning, an email pinged his inbox. Subject, Tuesday, from Elena Voss. Ms. Carver would like you to return Tuesday at 1 p.m. She has something to show you. Bring nothing. Marcus read it 6 times. Bring nothing. It sounded less like an interview and more like a summons. Tuesday couldn't come fast enough. He wore the same shirt, pressed crisp. Shoes shined again. He got to the building 10 minutes early, sat in the lobby with his hands clasped, back straight. At 1 p.m. sharp, the elevator dinged. Alina was waiting on the 6th floor. This way, she said, her tone clipped but neutral. Instead of Sylvia's office, she led him to a glass-walled conference room. Inside, Sylvia sat at the head of a table with 3 others, 2 men and a woman, all dressed like money, tailored suits, watches that gleamed without flashing, confidence that didn't need to prove itself. Marcus's throat tightened, but he walked in, head up. Come in, Sylvia said, pointing to a chair. He sat, palms sweating under the table. This, she said, is not an interview. One of the men glanced at the others, then at Marcus. We asked Sylvia to find someone who can think on their feet, someone who shows good judgment under pressure. She said she had someone in mind. Marcus blinked. Me. Sylvia nodded. That morning, you helped me. You had no reason to stop. You were late. You had something to lose, but you put my problem first. That's not common. The woman to her left spoke up. We run a community outreach program within Carver and Stone. It's small but expanding, partnerships with schools, local businesses, mentorship initiatives. We're looking to grow leadership, bring in people who understand struggle. Marcus leaned in, trying to keep up. So, is this a job? Not exactly, Sylvia said. It's a trial. 30 days. You'll work with our outreach coordinator. See how you handle the real stuff. If it works, we bring you on full time. Marcus sat still, processing. The man across from him added, this isn't about degrees, it's about instinct. You've already shown that. Marcus exhaled, slow and steady. I'm in. Whatever you need. The room broke into small smiles. Good, Sylvia said, standing and offering her hand. Report to Building C, back entrance. 8 a.m. Monday. Marcus sat across from Sylvia in her office, the glass desk between them reflecting the late morning light. The chair felt smaller than last time, or maybe he was just more aware of how out of place he felt. Sylvia's expression was neutral, her hands folded. "I got 4 calls about Wednesday at Fresh Start," she said, her eyes locked on his. "One from the program director, one from the new guy you dealt with, one from a trainee named Denise, and one from a volunteer who saw it all. So, tell me what happened." Marcus kept his voice steady. They were about to cut to people over missing training logs. The trainees said they never got the logs, and it sounded like a mistake. "I checked the records, found proof they weren't sent, and got it sorted so they could stay." Sylvia nodded, her face unreadable. "You didn't mention it to Lena, Riley, or anyone else. Why not?" "Didn't think it was about me," Marcus said. "It was about keeping those folks in the program. I just did what needed doing." She leaned back, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "That's what caught my attention. Most people, especially in a trial like this, would have made sure everyone knew they saved the day. You didn't. You handled it and moved on." Marcus shifted, unsure where this was going. "Was I supposed to report it?" "No," Sylvia said, standing and moving to the window. "I brought you here because we need people who get why this work matters, not just how to check boxes. But I'm not here to pat you on the back." She turned, her tone sharpening. "I want you to see the bigger picture." Marcus leaned forward. "Bigger how?" Sylvia walked back to her desk, pulled a thick folder from a drawer, and set it in front of him. "You've seen our community outreach on the ground, sorting donations, running meetings, fixing problems like Wednesday. What you haven't seen is how we build it from the inside." He opened the folder. Blueprints, timelines, budget sheets, and a proposal for something called Rise Tulsa, citywide partnership between Carver and Stone and 4 local organizations. She sat down, her voice steady but charged. "We're launching Rise Tulsa in 3 months. It's a big push job training, affordable housing, youth programs, all tied together. We need someone who can bridge both worlds, the streets where the work happens and the boardrooms where it's funded. Someone who can walk into a bank at 10 a.m. and a shelter at 2 p.m. without changing who they are." Marcus's eyes widened. "You want me to run it?" "Not yet," Sylvia said, holding up a hand. "That's too much, too soon. But I want you in the room learning the strategy, the funding, the people. I want to train you for something bigger." He stared at the folder, the weight of it sinking in. "This doesn't feel real," he said quietly. "I know," Sylvia replied. "It didn't for me either when I got my first break. But someone took a chance on me. I'm taking one on you." She paused, her gaze softening. "You'll meet people who doubt you. They won't always say it, but you'll feel it. They'll question if you belong. When they do, they're showing you who they are, not who you are." Marcus's throat tightened. He didn't know how to respond. Sylvia leaned forward. "When I was stuck on that sidewalk, looking like a fool in heels, I shouldn't have worn. You didn't hesitate. You didn't ask who I was. You just helped. That tells me more about you than any resume could." Marcus nodded, the words settling deep. "Why me, though? You could have picked anyone." She smiled, leaning on the edge of her desk. "Because I've been in rooms where I was the only woman, where the money talked louder than me, and the power didn't care. I stopped waiting for permission. You should too." She stood, extending her hand. "You in?" He stood, shaking her hand, his voice firm. "All in." "Good," she said. "We start Monday. Real work planning sessions, partner meetings, strategy calls. Bring questions, bring ideas." Marcus laughed, feeling lighter. "I've got plenty of both." "Then we're set," Sylvia said, her smile warm but sharp. "Go get ready." He walked out of her office, down the hall, and into the warm Tulsa sun. For the first time in years, he felt like he wasn't just scraping by, he was building something. But not everyone at Carver and Stone thought he belonged, and someone was already looking for a way to prove it. Monday came fast. Marcus showed up at 7:45 a.m. Not in jeans this time, but in a navy button-up and slacks Lena had helped him snag from a thrift store. "Time they see what you're made of," she'd said with a grin. The energy in the Carver and Stone headquarters was different. No donation bins or messy whiteboards here. This was polished, glass walls, soft carpet, the hum of ambition. The meeting was in the East Conference Room, a sleek space with a long table, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a projector glowing with the Rise Tulsa logo. Sylvia stood at the front, clicking through slides, flanked by a guy in a sharp blazer, Victor Klein, the same suit from the round table who'd grilled Marcus last week. Victor barely glanced at him, just a curt nod. Marcus took a seat, opened his notebook, and sat tall. Sylvia kicked things off. Rise Tulsa has 3 pillars: job training, housing support, and community mentorship. We're partnering with 4 local orgs, and we'll align them with our internal teams. This isn't just outreach, it's a long-term investment. She turned to the table. I've asked Marcus Tate to join these sessions. He's been doing the work on the ground for weeks, quietly, and his perspective matters. That got a few looks, some curious, some tight-lipped. Victor tapped his pen, eyes on his laptop. When Sylvia opened the floor, Marcus stayed quiet at first, soaking in the flow. People tossed out ideas, marketing campaigns, funding splits, launch events, but when the talk shifted to community rollout, Marcus cleared his throat. Can I jump in? The people we're trying to reach, they don't trust promises, Marcus said. They've heard help is coming before, and it usually disappears fast. If Rise Tulsa's gonna work, we can't just drop flyers or build a flashy website. We need to show up, again and again, until it feels like a commitment, not a handout. A woman across the table nodded, jotting something down. Another guy leaned back, thoughtful. Victor, though, spoke up. Marcus, I hear you, but this is a multi-million-dollar project. We can't base it on warm fuzzies. We've got timelines, deliverables, stakeholders. Marcus didn't back down. Then we're building something that'll fall apart the second we're gone. Trust isn't fluffy, it's the foundation. Victor's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Sylvia's lips twitched, almost a smile. That's why he's here, she said, moving the discussion along. After the meeting, as people filed out, Victor caught Marcus by the coffee station. You're on thin ice, he said, voice low. Sylvia's got your back now, but people will start asking why you're here. What makes you qualified? Marcus met his eyes. Maybe you should ask yourself why you forgot what this company's supposed to stand for. Victor's smile was cold. He tapped his mug and walked off. Marcus didn't tell Sylvia about it. He wasn't here for drama, he was here for the people he'd met at Fresh Start. The ones who needed more than budgets and PowerPoints. That week, he dove in head first. He sat in on funding meetings, learning how grants and donations actually moved. He spent afternoons mapping neighborhoods for jobs. Marcus stood on the sidewalk at Pine and 12th, staring at the crack where it all began, the spot where he'd helped Sylvia free her heel months ago. The memory felt like a lifetime away, but it was the spark that lit everything. Now, he was coordinating Rise Tulsa, a project that was starting to feel bigger than he'd ever imagined. He walked back to the office, passing a couple of kids arguing over a basketball. One dropped a notebook, pages scattering. Marcus bent down, picked them up, and handed them back. Thanks, man, the kid said, barely looking up. No problem, Marcus replied, moving on. It was second nature now, helping without expecting a spotlight. But as he stepped into Building C, the community outreach hub, he couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on him, and not all of them were friendly. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Rise Tulsa's launch was 2 months out, and Marcus was in the thick of it. Mornings meant strategy meetings in the glossy headquarters, sitting with execs who tossed around terms like ROI and scalability. Afternoons were spent in the field visiting community centers, training volunteers, or troubleshooting at partner sites like Fresh Start. He was learning to speak both languages, the polished lingo of the boardroom and the raw, real talk of the people the project was meant to serve. Lena, the outreach coordinator, had become his unofficial mentor. You're doing good, kid, she said one evening, locking up Building C, but watch your back. Not everyone loves seeing a new face move up this fast. Marcus nodded, thinking of Victor Klein, the suit who'd tried to rattle him before. Getting shipped to Kansas City, he wondered who else might be waiting to pull a similar move. That warning came into focus on a chilly Monday morning. Marcus arrived at headquarters for a Rise Tulsa budget meeting. The room was packed, execs, partner reps, even a few city council members. Sylvia led the charge, her presence commanding as she outlined the project's next phase, a citywide job fair and a mentorship program for at-risk youth. Marcus sat near the back, notebook open, taking it all in. When Sylvia called on him to share insights from the ground, he stood, voice steady. The job fair's a great start, but we need To make it accessible, a lot of folks we're trying to reach don't have cars or internet at home. We should set up shuttle routes from key neighborhoods and have paper applications ready, not just digital ones. And for the mentorship program, let's pair kids with mentors who've been through similar struggles. Trust comes from shared experience, not just good intentions. The room was quiet for a beat. A council member nodded, scribbling notes. Sylvia gave a small smile, but a new face, a guy in a pinstripe suit named Gerald Holt, a senior manager from the finance team, leaned forward. Those are nice ideas, Marcus, but shuttles and paper forms add costs. We're already stretched thin. And mentors with shared struggles, how do we vet that without risking liability? Marcus didn't flinch. The cost of shuttles is less than the cost of leaving people out. And for mentors, we don't need perfect records, just people who've turned their lives around and can prove it. I can help set up a screening process. I know what to look for. Gerald raised an eyebrow, but Sylvia cut in. Let's explore Marcus's suggestions. Accessibility is non-negotiable. The discussion moved on, but Marcus caught Gerald's glance, cool, calculating, like he was sizing him up. After the meeting, Lena pulled Marcus aside in the hall. Gerald's not your fan, she whispered. He's been with the company 15 years, thinks outreach is a PR stunt. He doesn't like Sylvia pushing you forward. Watch him. Marcus shrugged it off, but the warning stuck. He threw himself into the work, harder refining the job fair logistics, drafting mentor guidelines, even pitching a mobile app to connect trainees with resources. Late nights became routine. His mattress back at Jamal's apartment, seeing less of him. One evening, while grabbing coffee from the office break room, he overheard two staffers talking. Heard Gerald's got a problem with the new guy, one said. Says he's overstepping, pushing ideas that don't fit the budget. Marcus kept his head down and walked out. He wasn't here to play games, he had too much to prove. The tension broke a week later. Marcus was at Fresh Start, running a training session for new volunteers. His phone buzzed mid-session. An email from Sylvia, marked urgent. Meeting at headquarters, 3 p.m. sharp. Budget review for Rise Tulsa. Be there. He wrapped up early and caught a bus across town, arriving just in time. The conference room was smaller this time. Just Sylvia, Gerald, Lena, and a woman from HR, named Patrice. The air felt heavy. Gerald leaned back, his tone smooth but sharp. The numbers don't add up. The shuttle service and extra staffing Marcus proposed are pushing us over budget by 15%. And the mentorship program, screening mentors with non-traditional backgrounds, sounds risky. We can't afford legal exposure if something goes wrong. I recommend scaling back to a digital-only job fair and pausing the mentorship piece until next year. Marcus's jaw tightened. He glanced at Sylvia, who nodded for him to respond. Scaling back cuts out the people who need this most, he said, keeping his voice even. A digital-only fair excludes anyone without reliable internet, half our target group. And the mentorship program isn't just a nice-to-have. Kids need role models who get their worlds. We can cap the shuttle routes to save costs and use existing staff for screening. I've already drafted a plan to make it work. Gerald smirked. Drafted a plan? Marcus, you've been here a few months. I've run budgets for multi-million-dollar projects. This isn't about heart, it's about numbers. Sylvia's eyes narrowed. It's about impact, Gerald. Marcus's plan prioritizes the people we're serving. Patrice, what's HR's take on the mentorship screening? Patrice adjusted her glasses. It's feasible. We can adapt our volunteer protocols to vet mentors with non-traditional backgrounds, as long as we're thorough. Marcus's draft aligns with our policies. Gerald's smile faded. Sylvia turned to him. We're moving forward with Marcus's adjustments. Tighten the budget elsewhere if needed, but the job fair and mentorship program stay. The meeting ended, but Gerald lingered, catching Marcus by the door. You think you're untouchable, because Sylvia's got your back, he said, voice low. But push too hard, and you'll find out how fast things can turn. Marcus met his gaze. I'm not pushing for me, I'm pushing for the people who don't get a seat at your table. Gerald walked off without a word. Marcus exhaled, the weight of the encounter settling in. He told Lena about it later, and she shook her head. Gerald's not used to being challenged. He'll back off, but he won't forget. Keep your eyes open. The week of the Rise Tulsa job fair felt like running a marathon with no finish line in sight. Marcus was up before dawn every day, double-checking shuttle schedules, coordinating with vendors, and training volunteers at Building C. The mentorship program was in full swing, with 15 teens now meeting weekly with mentors like Ray, the former mechanic who'd nearly been pushed out over a shady complaint. Marcus made it a point to check in with them, ensuring the kids felt supported, and Ray stayed confident. "You're doing good, man," Ray told him after a session. "This program's real because of you." Marcus brushed it off, but the words fueled him. He was pouring everything into this late nights rewriting scripts for the job fairs, opening remarks, mornings hauling tables to the community center, afternoons calming nerves among partner orgs. Lena, his mentor in the outreach hub, was back in action, her cold finally gone. "You're carrying this thing like it's yours," she said, tossing him a water bottle during a setup break. "Don't burn out before the big day." The big day was Saturday, and by 6 a.m., Marcus was at the Tulsa Community Center, clipboard in hand, directing a small army of volunteers. The gym was transformed, booths lined the walls for local employers, tables stacked with paper applications, and a welcome station with coffee and donuts for early arrivals. Outside, shuttles rolled in from neighborhoods across the city, dropping off dozens of job seekers, single moms, older folks, teens looking for their first gig. Marcus greeted every group, shaking hands, cracking jokes to ease the tension. "You got this," he told a nervous woman clutching a resume. "Just be you." By 9 a.m., the place was buzzing. Employers from construction firms, retail chains, and tech startups interviewed candidates on the spot. Marcus moved through the crowd, troubleshooting a printer jam here, a missing name tag there, while keeping an eye on the mentorship program's booth, where Ray and other mentors chatted with teens about career paths. Sylvia arrived at 10, her presence quiet but commanding in a navy blazer. She pulled Marcus aside. "This is impressive," she said, scanning the room. "You've made it real." "Thanks," Marcus said, catching his breath. "But it's not just me. Lena, Ray, the volunteers there, the backbone." Sylvia nodded, a rare softness in her eyes. "That's why you're here. You see the people, not just the plan." She paused. "Keep it up. The board's watching." The board. Marcus hadn't thought about them much, but he knew they held the keys to Rise Tulsa's future and his own. He pushed the thought aside and got back to work. By noon, the fair was a success. Over 200 attendees, 50 on-the-spot job offers, and a stack of applications for follow-ups. The mentorship booth signed up 20 new teens, and Ray's group got a shout-out from a local news crew covering the event. But the high didn't last. At 2 p.m., as the crowd thinned, Lena rushed up to Marcus, her face tight. "We've got a problem. One of the shuttle drivers just called someone, slashed the tires on 2 buses parked out back. Cops are on their way, but folks are stuck, and they're getting restless." Marcus's stomach dropped. Slashed? Who'd do that? His mind flashed to Gerald, but he shook it off. Gerald was gone, reassigned after the complaint fiasco. "All right, let's keep everyone calm. I'll find another way to get them home." He grabbed a megaphone and addressed the lingering crowd. "Hey everyone, we've got a small hiccup with a couple of our shuttles. Hang tight, we're arranging backups, and we've got snacks and water while you wait. You're not stuck, I promise." His voice was steady, and the crowd relaxed, some even chuckling. He called a local church that owed Lena a favor, securing 2 vans within 30 minutes. By 4 p.m., everyone was on their way home, and the police were taking statements. Sylvia caught up with him as the last van pulled out. "You handled that like a pro," she said. "Any idea who's behind it?" "No," Marcus admitted, "but it feels personal. Someone didn't want this to go smooth." She nodded, her jaw tight. "I'll look into it. For now, take the win. Today was a success because of you." The fair wrapped, but Marcus didn't sleep much that night. He kept replaying the Datha energy, the slashed tires, the weight of Sylvia's words about the board. He was back at Building C by Monday, diving into post-fair reports and planning the next mentorship phase. That afternoon, Sylvia called him to her office. Lena was there, along with Patrice from HR, and a man Marcus had an MAA. Marcus hadn't met a board member, named Carl Reynolds, his suit crisp and his demeanor all business. Sylvia didn't mince words. The tire incident wasn't random. Security footage caught a former employee near the lot. Gerald Holt. He's been terminated, and we're pressing charges. But more importantly, the The board reviewed Rise Tulsa's launch. She gestured to Carl. Carl cleared his throat. The job fair exceeded expectations, outcomes, community